everybody. Broncos country, welcome to Orange First, brought to you by Otterbox. Lionel Bienvenu here with Allison Mastrangelo over there, and the man, the myth, and the legend. You've heard that before, haven't you? Woody Page is here as well. We're going to check in with Troy Renck in just a few minutes, live from Dove Valley after Vance Joseph stops talking at his afternoon press conference. All right, we are the first Monday Broncos post-game show on the air, everybody. So here we are. Woody, Vance Joseph just is talking to the media right now out at Dove Valley. He said, Trevor Siemian is our starting quarterback going into Kansas City on Monday night. He said, quote, it's not a Trevor thing, it's a unit thing. The entire offensive unit is to blame for this funk that they're in right now.
Well, I'd agree with him. I don't think there's any strength in the numbers that they have on offense. Right. I mean, the tight ends have disappeared again. You had one fumble, a good pass catch yesterday. The wide receivers, Demaryius Thomas, had an incredible play, and yet he was called for offensive pass interference, and that was a good call, despite what people said. The offensive line just keeps getting thinner and worse. And the running backs are no longer any good. And Trevor didn't play well. So, I mean, you can blame everybody. I said last night on Sports Extra that I may be in the minority, and I just got off a plane that was a 787. So it had about 350 people on it, and 349 of those thought they should change quarterbacks because I kind of polled everybody. And I'm not so ready to do it. If you're going to change, do it yesterday. In the second half. Right. But do you throw Brock Osweiler into there on the road? But he had, as I mentioned to you last night, he had his first victory as a starting quarterback on the road in Chicago. Right. Big difference.
Beat the Bears.
But you're not going anywhere with Trevor Siemian, so you might as well make the changes. It's not like you're going to hurt his feelings. Right.
Well, that's the thing. You say, okay, it's not the quarterback. They can't run the ball. They've had 6 turnovers in the last 2 games. They haven't caused a turnover in the last 2 games. So changing the quarterback, what's it going to do? Well, you don't know. Who knows what it can do? But, Allison, we have put this out on social media today. Yeah. We put a poll out on Twitter and Facebook. One choice was keep Trevor in. The other was put Brock in. Very simple. Yeah, and the other one is wait for Paxton. And what are some of the results coming in?
Everyone's saying Brock, right? That's the big one. That's what they want, Brock. Siemian, some are sticking with him, but everyone's saying Brock. But you know what's puzzling is head coach Vance Joseph also said what he said in his press conference is he's like, they're puzzled, right? They have great weeks of practices. Puzzled, but then they're not showing up in the games. Should we be concerned, puzzled? Like, shouldn't they know what the answer is? Obviously, it's the offense, right? And the special teams also are struggling a little bit. But puzzled? You don't like to hear that.
The head coach is puzzled.
We question the leadership on the field, particularly on offense. I think you've got to question the leadership on the sidelines. Vance Joseph is not showing me anything. There was somebody who's rather well known in the NFL who told me a week and a half ago that he would put stock in the San Francisco 49ers moving forward. He means this figuratively. Right. He said, I would put no stock in the Denver Broncos. Wow. This is a guy that's well respected in the National Football League. That means he believes, as I did at the beginning of the year, that they made a mistake in their quarterback. I mean, in their head coach. We're seeing that the players, he's a real players coach. Talked about Vance Joseph, but is he a leadership coach that actually is making changes in the game? We didn't see any game plan changes. And the other team that had a shutout yesterday, that threw a shutout, was also in Los Angeles. And guess who their defensive coordinator is? Wade Phillips. He threw a shutout yesterday. Mike McCoy should have known all about the San Diego Chargers. He coached them for 4 years. What did he show us in changing or going up against his old team? Nothing. So I wonder about the coaching staff. I wonder about the head coach. I think you have to go into the front office and go, what about the head guy? I mean, John Elway, is this a now come to Jesus kind of meeting time for him where he does that about once every 2 years? You know that, that he calls the team together. Well, John, it's probably time for you to do that.
Well, the funny thing about this is we all know the NFL is a week-to-week league. I mean, just 2 short weeks ago, well, you put the bye in there, 3 short weeks ago, they're 3-1. And Vance Joseph is having the time of his life. And today he's talking about, I'm puzzled by how this team looks great in practice on a Wednesday. He said, how the coaches install the schemes and the plays for that week and how they run them in practice, everything is good, and they get into the games. And he said, we're blowing the basic things. we're dropping passes, we're dropping the football, we're turning it over, we're not doing the things it takes to win a football game. And all this in 2 weeks, Woody. Giants and now Chargers, and here we are talking about Elway come to Jesus moment, and this franchise has reached a critical juncture though. 3-3 into the Chiefs game. We go back to the quarterback here. We know they're not making a change, but what else can you do? What else can be fixed before Monday night in KC?
Well, you brought up all the other quarterback choices. I just mentioned that Chad Kelly is now, at least according to NFL regulations, able to practice. He had been out on the practice field, but you might
There's no way.
You might throw him into the mix.
No
well,
way.
If you took a poll and said, who is the most popular person in every city in the NFL? Backup quarterback.
Of course. Yeah.
How popular is Chad Kelly right now?
Backup to the backup to the backup.
But he has so much to learn. I mean, there's no way.
Well, it looks like Trevor Siemian has so much to learn. What are the fixes? And you talked about that last night. The fixes are that you go out and find some way. I would trade one of the running backs. You're not to the trading deadline until October 31st. I would trade one of the running backs to a team in need of a running back and get another offensive tackle. None of the offensive tackles have worked out. Watson didn't work out. Barber wasn't any good yesterday. Bosa treated him like a rented mule. And we've seen that Donald Stevenson's a guy they don't even want to put in the game. They just got to pay him that guaranteed contract.
Right.
I just think you make a move in the offensive line to shake up the offensive line. I get Jake Butt out there, even if he's not physically able to play at this point in football shape. And I also figure out something to do with getting Emmanuel Sanders back as quickly as possible, because none of the other wide receivers were a factor in the game.
No, the one big play was the one that was called back, 81 yards to Demaryius Thomas, and it was a push-off on offensive pass interference. Vance just said that Isaiah McKenzie, who shows some spark, Emmanuel and Menelik Watson are day-to-day with their injuries, so we won't know for a few more days whether they're going to play in KC or
not. But the locker room seemed fired up,
like.
so.
I'm day-to-day.
You're all day-to-day.
I'm more like hour to hour.
Minute to minute.
Good hour, bad hour, and then,
But the locker room seemed fired up. Like Chris Harris was saying, he was angry, they're frustrated, but they were fired up after the Giants game too, right? So how many games?
Colorful language.
Yeah, you were the same person that told us a week ago. Oh, yeah.
They were fired up, and it didn't show.
Well,
so maybe they shouldn't be.
They should be angry. They should put gigantic mirrors in the locker rooms. You couldn't have done that out there because that was like a little league
high school
locker room. Put mirrors up in the locker room and say, you want to get angry? Get angry at that guy.
Pull up my little makeup mirror. Yeah.
So, I mean, and we're kind of kidding, but at this point, as I said, I was on a 2.5-hour ride, and I was being overwhelmed by Broncos fans who were out there for that game because they dominated the stadium.
Right.
And they all want to talk about, you can talk about all those other positions. They want to talk about quarterback situations.
That's the one. I mean, that's the obvious change. That's the one thing you can change to say, okay, you change your left guard.
But he's still going to get hit. Whoever you put back there, it's the offensive line, right? Still going to get sacked.
I went back and watched the game today just now before we came on, and Trevor took an absolute beatdown. In the post-game presser, his nose was messed up.
Said
he had grass and stuff?
When he got hit head-on, and they called it unsportsmanlike, roughing the passer, he took his helmet off, and he was sitting there. You could tell it was bleeding, that he was in bad shape. And that's when they actually, and I said it seriously, should have checked him for concussion protocol, because that was such a devastating hit. You haven't been in Denver for that long, but you've followed the Broncos. You've been around for a long time. I've been around longer than both of you combined. And I only bring this up because they say it's not about the quarterback. When the Broncos been successful, and I spent a lot of time researching this the other day, it never went anywhere. I didn't quite know what to do with it. But except for a period with John Elway, Jake Plummer, and Peyton Manning, this is what they've been with their quarterbacks. This is Brian Greasy reincarnate. This is a bunch of guys that came through here. So the people who've been around here and followed this team for a while, you're very fortunate. You had two guys that played here for a number of years, 16 years, and you had another guy that the coach got rid of that was actually the third best quarterback they've ever had.
Jay Cutler.
Right now, they don't have a quarterback that is in that category. That's why people are so upset, because you've been accustomed to fantastic quarterbacks. Well, you can't depend on the quarterback. Then you've got to depend on the other people to make him a better quarterback. And that's not happening. This team is no better than it was last year, and not much better than it, I mean, and not as, quite as good as it was 2 years ago when it wasn't that good. So it's going to be a predicament. If they can't find a quarterback or figure out a quarterback, this team's going to go through years of 8-8 as it did in the 2000s.
That's what I said. I mean, with Trevor, you know what you're getting. You can say he can get better and he can play better. Fine. I haven't seen it. With Trevor, you know what you're getting. So, and when you're getting 3-3 or 8-8 as you look to the end of the season.
You know what you're getting too.
Well, Brock went 5-3 a couple of years ago here.
5-2 as a starter.
Right. So,
since he's left.
and they all said we wouldn't have gotten to the Super Bowl without Brock Osweiler. You were at that Super Bowl. You know what they were saying. So I'm all for making a change just because more of the same and you get the same record as you look forward. Now, you brought up Chad Kelly. That's interesting. What about a guy that John Elway was interested in bringing in here not long ago? Not very long ago, Colin Kaepernick was the guy John Elway wanted to be the quarterback of this team. Is that not true, and is that not going to happen?
They're in a bad place right now. You don't want to move to a worse place. And I'm not saying
no, how can it get worse?
He hadn't played.
No,
he hadn't played.
True.
Yeah.
And you've got all of. I mean, he's a guy that was. I was just at baggage claim. Guess what? He'd have several trunks with him at baggage claim at DIA because he's got a lot of baggage, whether it's right or wrong, and we won't get into that discussion, that people in Denver are not going to accept him any better than people in San Francisco or anywhere else.
It would be a disaster. I just had to throw it out there.
Yeah.
And I read this morning, well, if you brought in Kaepernick, look what Mike McCoy did with Tim Tebow. Mike McCoy didn't do anything with Tim Tebow. He didn't want any part of that. He told John Fox, if you make this move, you're going to lose all of our jobs. We'll never get another job in the NFL. Tim Tebow actually coached himself because Mike McCoy had no background in that. No. They got all the Tim Tebow plays and say, how do you run this play? So Mike McCoy is not the genius that he was being called. You know that. I said that to you in offseason. I didn't quite understand why he was such a genius. He wasn't at Carolina where he was before he got here. He was with Peyton Manning. Hell, I could have been the offensive coordinator.
Anybody could be a genius with Peyton as your quarterback.
Yeah, in San Diego, he didn't show us anything.
That's interesting.
Joe Woods, is that an improvement over Wade Phillips? I haven't seen any creativity that wasn't existing a year or so ago.
Pick sixes, you know?
No pick sixes.
Yeah.
But more importantly, no fumble recoveries. And Brock Olivo, he was a darling at training camp. And man, he was a great quote. Special teams are awful. And Vance Joseph, he talks a good game. The players really like him. Guess what? The players don't like Bill Belichick that play for him. And guess what? They keep winning and winning and winning. I don't know that popularity contests make that much difference. And I already got calls today saying, should they fire the head coach? And I went, no, that's not going to happen. But they did fire a head coach that was here, that was similar, that lasted about a year and a half.
I remember that well.
We're back. We are back here in Denver to the Josh McDaniels.
Well, as I said, week-to-week basis, at 3-1, the darlings of the NFL, and everybody's doing a great job. And there's some things going on, but at 3-1, you're like, hey, this is looking pretty good.
But you ask me questions. What would you do? You're now the coach of the team, Allison. What would you do to shake it up?
If I was the coach of the Broncos,
Kansas City on Monday night, what would you do this week?
If I'm going to shake things up, I'm going to bench Simeon.
Let me know what you would do.
If I'm going to shake things up, I'm benching Simeon. If I'm going in, Brock would start.
And you?
That's what shake it up.
Same deal. I'm putting Brock in.
Yeah.
And seeing what we can do.
Not Chad Kelly.
But the offensive line isn't getting any better by Monday.
Right.
Well, that's the whole thing on social media. Everybody's like, who cares who's the quarterback? It's going to be the same result if the offensive line is the same. Well, it is going to be the same offensive line unless they make a trade.
Yeah.
But is Brock's confidence back? Is it back yet? We don't know, right? Because he has had poor confidence coming in.
What both of you are saying. I know when I'm in traffic and traffic is slowing down on I-25, I get off. And I may not make any more progress, but at least I'm moving. I'm making a move.
The side roads are packed too, but at least I did something.
That's the whole point. Even if I'm going backward.
Right. Because I'm just going to sit there and more of the same, make a move. All right, Troy Rank is joining us on the phone live from Dove Valley. He just attended the Vance Joseph press conference on this Monday. Troy, how you doing, man? We know the big deal today was no change in quarterback, according to Vance Joseph, right?
Yeah, I asked him directly if he was sticking with Trevor Siemian. He said yes. Trevor's our guy. He's our starter. That it's a unit problem. That it's not just a Trevor problem. He admitted, obviously, that Trevor needs to play better, but he said the blame falls across the board. Coaches, players, designing plays better. They're going to try to coach differently with more walkthroughs, less meetings. But again, it's just fascinating to me that the idea that it's a conversation seems to leave them bristling when they've scored 3 touchdowns in 4 games. I mean, I don't know what else you have to do to get benched, but it does tell me one thing, 2 things. One, they have confidence in Trevor, and secondly, Brock must not be showing enough in practice, because I have to believe if he were lighting it up in practice, they would make a move this week. If nothing else, I would think this is the final week you could stay with Trevor if they go out and lay an egg in Kansas City. And at that point, you almost are compelled to make a change.
Almost.
Yeah, I agree with that. If they lose in Kansas City and the offense doesn't get much better, then you definitely, I think, have to make a change there. And maybe Paxton is ready at that point. Is that?
Yeah, I would not count on Paxton.
Well,
he just started throwing. He's not practicing. He just started throwing.
Right.
He's not a candidate right now. It's either Trevor or Brock. And again, I just wonder if they're just not seeing enough from him yet. That's all I could guess, because he's won games with this team in this league, went 5-2 as a starter. He was terrible last year. That's why he was available. But it tells me that they believe, because you have to ask yourself the question, how could it be worse? They must think it can be, otherwise they'd make the switch.
Wow, no kidding. Because this would be the week to do it. You have an extra day. Trevor just took a beating. His nose was all jacked up. You could say Trevor's beaten up, okay? He's not ready to go. Let's put Brock in. You could almost say face with Trevor there, but it's not going to happen. So you're right. Brock must be really bad if they're not going to make a change, because Trevor is really bad at this point.
We know all those hard truths, and I would ask Troy probably didn't hear us, but I asked both of you what you would do, and everybody wants to change the quarterback. How about this? I'm a guy who's solutions-oriented. I look for Mike McCoy's not getting the job done. Make Bill Musgrave the guy who calls all the plays. He did it at Oakland. I mean, it's not like you're throwing a guy in there like Chad Kelly, that hadn't played in the NFL. Say to Mike, Mike, let's take a couple of weeks off. Your plans are not working. Let's have Bill put together the game plan. Troy, what about that possibility?
Again, Woody, it's an interesting question. They think there's plays that are being left on the field, so they don't see it as the play calling. He said he has confidence in Mike McCoy's play calling. They have 4 former offensive coordinators in the NFL on the staff, with Musgrave, Davidson, Jeep Christ, and McCoy. They feel like the game plans are there, that when they get their 4 or 5 shots to make plays, they're not making them.
If you got 4 offensive coordinators, you got none.
Same thing with quarterbacks, right?
That's what we wonder. Vance expressed confidence in him. They're going to try to teach it differently. They're going to go through more walkthroughs, fewer meetings, but there is the sobering truth, and you talking truths, Woody, that in some cases you just look in the mirror and say the offensive personnel isn't very good. I mean, that's part of this. You've changed coaches, you've changed offensive coordinators, you've tweaked the scheme, and they're going through a stretch that's very similar to what they went through last year. So in some cases, it is the personnel. That is part of the issue. They don't block. They don't run They don't run the football anymore. Teams figured out after 2 games, if the Broncos don't run, they can't beat us. And that's been the issue. They have no balance anymore at all, and they can't win by passing. So Jake Butt coming back could help. You get Emmanuel Sanders back. But, I mean, unless they run the ball at some point again effectively, this is going to be their season, these highs and lows and fighting to score points. It's ugly. There's no way around it. It's ugly.
Yeah, and I told Troy in the car going back to the hotel last night that, they played sort of well the first 2 weeks, but teams saw them. They saw the game plans, and they saw everything. And so then teams started preparing differently for them. And you had against the Cowboys, and we'd all agree that defense of the Cowboys was just horrendous. They scored 42. That's what they've scored since then, total. In all their games since then. That this is a team. I get off at the interstate and I keep moving. I do something just to be different, and I would do something to shake it up. Because if you go in there and play like this against Kansas City, you're going to get blown out, and people are going to go, why do they keep putting these people on TV?
But they don't want to be wish-washy. What if you put Siemian in, or put Brock in, right, and then Brock is bad? I mean, do you want to keep waiting and waiting? What if, and then what do you do?
You are in a tough spot then, Allison. I think that's their concern.
Yeah.
You set up Brock to fail, honestly, if you play this week at Kansas City. They are going to have their fangs out. They're going to be, I mean, they haven't lost 3 games in a row in a while, and they just lost 2 games in a row for the first time in 35 games. So you put Brock in, they lose 31-3, then what? You go back to Simeon?
Right.
So I do kind of understand, like, Simeon, this is your last chance to kind of get it straightened out and then give Brock more of a puncher's chance at Philadelphia, because this game, I mean, it sets up as a, I don't say it's not a win, not a winnable game, but they're a huge underdog now.
But yeah, Philly could be 6-1 after tonight and then so you send Brock into Philadelphia.
Yeah,
kind of the same thing. All right, guys, let's wrap this up. Troy, I know it's early. It's Monday. You don't know who's coming back. A lot of guys are day-to-day with injuries, including Sanders, McKenzie, Watson, some of those guys.
Davis.
Todd Davis, who knows. But looking into Kansas City on Monday, I'm not going to ask for predictions because it's just too crazy. But what do you see happening on Monday with Trevor Siemian still in as quarterback and this team still banged up as well?
Well, to give him any chance, Lionel, I'd go jumbo package, put an extra tight end, an extra tackle, protect your right tackle, whomever that is, whether it's Watson or Barber. Try to eliminate the sacks and just keep it basic. If that means 2 guys in a route with Sanders and Thomas, so be it. And maybe you can use Jake Butt in the red zone. But that's my issue with Simeon. Beyond the stats, he looked like a boxer who had been knocked out yesterday. The glazed eyes, that just look of helplessness, that's what concerns me. He looks skittish. He looks uncomfortable. He lacks confidence. That's why I would make a change. But, again, I would go simple and protect him in every way possible and try to run the football.
Yeah, I mean, Trevor's tough. There's no doubt about it. But he is beaten up. 6 games into the season.
And Troy's right. They've tried 90 passes in the last 2 games, approximately, that you need to just try on the road. The only way you're going to win, and Troy repeated that to me last night, is you run the football. That's what they got to do. And really, that would make the difference. And I'd get rid of the fullback. They haven't used him in weeks, and try and get somebody else to play in the offensive line on this team.
Right. They won 3 games by running the football and stopping the run. Up front in the trenches, that's where the game's won, and that's where they're
And they did a good job against the run yesterday. I mean, I looked down in the 4th quarter, and San Diego had 60 yards, and Gordon wasn't even their leading rusher. So they're still being able to stop the run. They just can't run the football.
Yeah.
All right, Allison, what do you see happening? W or L?
No, it's gonna be an L, right? But then there's always that game the Broncos win that no one expects them to win. So for the fans, hopefully win. But on paper, it's not gonna be. It's not gonna be a W.
Yeah, exactly.
Always expect the unexpected. No, expect the expected. They're going to lose. They're going to lose big.
Well, I know we all picked
City. They can't
Giants,
score.
right?
They can't score in the first quarter. They can't come from behind. They can't score in the red zone. How is that suddenly going to? I mean, that's like me. I kept hoping every year I'd get a pony under the tree, and instead I got pony extract under the tree, but never pony.
Buddy.
Yeah.
Allison, we need to get this
we're going to get you a pony for Christmas.
So expect the expected, and that means a loss.
I'm just saying, Giants-Broncos has happened. Broncos, Chiefs can happen.
The Broncos are the Giants in this case?
Exactly. All right, Troy Rank out of Dove Valley, our Broncos Insider. Thanks. We'll look for you on TV and online, Troy, all day on Denver 7 on the Denver Channel. Woody Page on ESPN every day. Check him out. And you do that right here, right?
Right.
Woody?
And those of you at home, if he could be doing this, imagine.
I know.
Work it.
Who couldn't do it? All right. Allison, thanks for being here. That's it. Orange First brought to you by OtterBox. We'll see you again next week. Have a good one.